Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. There's almost got selections here for Saturday, October 23rd. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap what happened. So we picked up a loss in the NBA with a two-pick parlay. We had the Knicks money line and the Celtics money line at minus 110 on BetMGM. Starting with the Knicks, they did what they were supposed to do. They were up, I believe, 50 to 22 in the first half, won by 25. And then you had the other half of the parlay, which was the Celtics. And they not only lost at home to Toronto as about 7.5-point favorites, but they lost by 32 points. So Boston, easily the worst performance of the night. Embarrassing showing, really. First home game, and you get blown out by a Raptors team that lost by double digits to the Wizards. Not exactly ideal, let's put it that way. And it wasn't like Boston was missing anybody. Everyone played, including Al Horford, who missed the opener. And yet Boston still got buried. So Toronto, who burned us in their first game against the Wizards, ended up looking like the team I thought they were going to look like for the opener. And they ended up kicking our ass for the second time this season. So Toronto gave me a bit of a hard time last year when it came to betting. Seems like it carries over into this year. We'll see what happens moving forward with them. But for the immediate future, I'll probably stay away from their games, and maybe I'll go back to them once Siakam is healthy once again. But either way, looking at the play of the day for Saturday, we're looking at a matchup between the Heat and the Pacers taking place at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For the play of the day, we like the Heat minus 3.5 at minus 115 on BetMGM. Time recording of 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Covered why I like the Heat in the spot. First of all, Miami this season so far has looked fantastic. Now, they have played one game, but when you beat the Bucks by 42 points, I'm going to be impressed because the Heat dominated on offense, they dominated on defense, and I think this Heat team is very, very good, and I think they might be a dark horse candidate to come out of the East when the season is over. But either way, looking at the Pacers, they are 0-2 with each loss coming by exactly 1 point, which is absolutely brutal. But either way, they lost to the Hornets in the opener, and they lost to the Wizards by 1 yesterday. Now, you might be looking at those teams and saying, well, the Hornets, not that bad. Team that made the play-in game last year, maybe a sneaky team to make the playoffs this year. And the Wizards, of course, got worse without Westbrook, but they still have some veterans. They still have Beal. Maybe they'll find a way to maybe sneak into the play-in game. But the issue there is the fact that both the Hornets and the Wizards were missing their best player, or at least their best scorer, and yet the Pacers lost anyway. Now, the Hornets were without Terry Rozier for the opener, and the Wizards were without Bradley Beal yesterday. And even with those two out, the Pacers allowed at least 123 points in each of those two games. So in other words, this Pacers team is awful defensively, and offensively it's looked good, but I do question how good Charlotte and Washington's defenses actually are. So I do think this offense will look a lot worse facing off against one of the best defenses in the league on a Saturday night. But I already mentioned the loss of the Wizards. It was in overtime, which is even worse for Indiana because that game happened yesterday. So with no days off, first back-to-back of the season, Indiana now has to fly from D.C. to Indiana after a 53-minute game and face off against a Miami team that will make every possession a living hell for the opposing offense. So I think Indiana is going to be running on fumes in this game for the first back-to-back of the season, and I think the Heat are one of the worst matchups you can have on the second night of a back-to-back. But you're looking at a situation where maybe you might make the argument Indiana will look better at home for its first home game of the season, but Miami has been very good on the road against Indiana recently, as the Heat are 4-1 ATS in the last 5 meetings in Indiana. But at the end of the day, the Heat are obviously the much better team. Go down the line, you have Butler, you have Adebayo, you have Kyle Lowry that picked up during the offseason. Now, Lowry, I will admit, is questionable for this game, dealing with a bit of a leg issue, so he might not play. However, Lowry was a complete non-factor into the season opener, and yet the Heat still won by 42. Tyler Hero looked great, for example. They got a lot of guys, and I do think that Miami, with Butler, with Adebayo, even with Hero, if he continues to look like he did in Game 1, he might win Sixth Man of the Year. But I think Miami's got too much talent, and they're also the more rested team, which is an obvious angle, especially this early in the season. I think Indiana might rest a guy or two, because I'm not sure if they're ready following overtime to give all of their main guys a huge workload again. But if they end up playing everyone anyway, I am curious if we'll see minute restrictions. I'm curious if you will just see a really flat basketball team. And I think Miami will start the game off really trying to, I'd say, make life miserable for Indiana's offense. And I think Miami might jump on this team early and open up a double-digit lead in the first half and coast to a nice win. But 3.5, way too low. You shop around, you can find 4.5 on FanDuel for the Heat. I think you'll see a lot of Miami money coming in on a Saturday leading up to this game. But either way, play that once again here for Saturday, October 23rd. Is going to be on the Heat minus 3.5 at minus 115 on BetMGM. Bye, everyone.